Thomas, and I'm co-chair of the climate team for the league. And I have been uh, working for years on plastic. Once upon a time, in a land not that far away called California, I was a volunteer at a place called the Marine Mammal Center. And there is where I learned in the beginning about plastic and the devastating effects that it has on marine life and on the ocean. And from there, ever since, I've been studying plastic and pushing back against it. And here we are today to explore whether this plastic can make you look fat, among other things. So shall we go on from there?
Absolutely. It's over to you now.
Okay. So, question is, does this plastic make me look fat? And a spoiler alert is that yes, plastic can make you look fat and a whole lot more. So are you guys, as I proceed, are you seeing the screen, full screen, and
Yes.
hearing everything? Okay, super. So let's explore for a moment what plastic is. Plastic is simply fossil fuel plus chemicals. Even though we probably don't think of it that way, that's what it is. And it's also a toxic chemical stew. It contains over 16,000 different chemicals, and a quarter of those are characterized by persistence, bioaccumulation, or toxicity. At least 1,000 of them are harmful, even in doses as small as 1 part per billion. 90% of the chemicals known to be harmful are surprisingly approved for food contact in the United States, the European Union, and Japan. And plastic producers are not required to disclose the chemical makeup of their products, declaring it to be, sorry, I'm going backwards here, declaring it to be proprietary information. Contrary to what you might have heard, plastic never goes away. It can never be reabsorbed by nature. Instead, it breaks down into tiny micro and nanoparticles that get into everything, including us. Plastic has been found throughout the human body, in blood, semen, lungs, breast milk, testicles, bone marrow, placentas, uterus, liver, kidneys, heart, and brain. And here you see a picture of sharp plastic particles in the brain, in an actual human brain. And some new information as of May, a study from Environmental Health is that 22 human uteruses were found to have microplastic particles in every one. And research of endometrial tissue in the uteruses of people who've had multiple miscarriages found 6 types of plastic polymers. An analysis of artery clogging plaques in 257 patients found that the presence of these microplastics was associated with a roughly quadrupled risk of heart attack, stroke, or death. Plastics most frequently found are polyethylene, also known as PET, which is found in plastic beverage bottles, and PVC, which is found in PVC water pipes, shower curtains, and other things in our homes. Plastic is filled with endocrine disruptors. And as you probably know, the endocrine system is our hormonal system, and it manages all the biological processes from conception through old age. In large measure, it determines who we are, whether you're born smart or not, whether you're fat or thin, whether you can control your behavior or are prone to lash out in aggression and rage, whether you can reproduce, and so much more. We're going to take a look at just 4 endocrine disruptors. There are many more, but let's take a look at bisphenols, PFAS, phthalates, and flame retardants. Bisphenols are a group of chemicals, the shorthand known as BPA, BPS, and BPF, and they're common in food packaging, especially and scarily in baby bottles, can linings, and receipts. And their effects can be hormonal cancers, heart disease, reproductive issues, obesity, and brain development issues. And PFAS, that's been in the news a lot. It's known as a forever chemical with 4,500 plus related chemicals. It's found in water and stain-repellent clothes, cosmetics, nonstick pans, paper, and card food packaging. It's in our raincoats, in our frying pans, and the effects can be thyroid disease, obesity, high cholesterol, reproductive issues, and kidney and testicular cancers. Phthalates. Phthalates increase plastic's durability and flexibility. It's found in vinyl floors, in clothes, in paints, some toys, medical tubing, soap, shampoos, and food packaging. And the effects are reproductive organ development harm in boys, early female puberty, delayed language development, increased heart disease and death in seniors, and asthma. Flame retardants, another kind of forever chemical found in fireman's foam, foam in furniture, bedding, children's clothes, and electronics. So it's all the way through our houses, in our sofas, in our TVs, in our laptops. Its effects are cancer, endocrine and thyroid disruption, fetal and brain development in children, reproductive toxicity, and immunotoxicity. So let's spend a few minutes looking at just 3 of the many health effects of these endocrine disruptors: obesity, as we started to talk about, reproductive harm, and brain damage. So how does plastic make us fat? A growing body of research links exposure to the chemicals in plastics to obesity, both in childhood and adulthood. Exposure can happen when the toxins in plastic leach into nearby food, water, soil, or air via microplastics or nanoplastics, including plastic dust from carpets or textiles. They can get into our bodies via ingestion, inhalation, skin contact, or intravenously through that medical tubing we talked about. The obesogenic effect can manifest in various ways. It can lower the metabolic rate at which calories are burned. It can affect the number and size of fat cells. It can change the mechanism that signals a body that it's full, and change the thyroid function and dopamine reward system. In 2022, the American Chemical Society did a study of 34 common plastic household products, including food packaging, and found that a third of those products contain metabolism disrupting compounds that triggered fat cell development in the lab. And that would be things like kitchen utensils, baggies, saran wrap that we all have in our kitchens. Their conclusion was that plastics contain a potent mixture of chemicals that promote adipogenesis, a key process in the development of obesity. They estimated that 15 to 20% of the increase in obesity around the world may come from exposure to endocrine disruptors. Reproductive harm. Male sperm counts globally have decreased over 50% in the last 40 years, and they're continuing downward at an accelerating pace. Boys who are toddlers now will have a problem becoming fathers. Prenatal exposure to phthalates is known to cause genital birth defects in males, lower sperm counts later in life, and to increase sperm malformation. Women's chronic exposure to phthalates has been shown to cause early depletion of viable eggs, lack of ovulation, reduced pregnancy rates, higher rates of miscarriage, increased rates of pregnancy complications like anemia, toxemia, and preeclampsia. Phthalates are just one of the diseases that affects fertility. The decline in fertility affects all other creatures on the planet as well, and is contributing to the extinction crisis. To explore more, I recommend Shauna Swan's book, Countdown, for more information. Exposure to chemical additives from plastic are highly damaging to fetuses, infants, and young children. For them, there is no safe level of exposure. The results are autism, ADHD, IQ loss, aggression, and other behavioral problems. The problems caused by their exposure to these chemicals are likely to be lifelong. Like obesity, these neurological problems are on the rise worldwide. Dr. Pete Myers, an expert on this topic, predicts that on the current path, by 2045, 1 in 2 children will be born autistic. Adult brains are not immune to plastic toxicity either. Recent studies show that plastic permeates the blood-brain barrier and is implicated in both short and long-term issues. Plastic nanoparticles in the brain can cause inflammation, which leads to cognitive impairment, neurotoxicity, and altered neurotransmitter levels, which can contribute to behavioral changes. In one study, inhaled plastics led to reduced functioning of certain brain enzymes that also malfunction in the brains of patients with Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's. Our brains accumulate more plastic than any other organ. We're all assaulted every day with a massive cocktail of chemicals, many of which are endocrine disruptors, or EDCs. According to the Endocrine Society, there is likely no safe dose of EDCs, and the effects can be multi-generational. The chemicals in plastic and synthetic chemicals generally are not well studied or regulated, especially here in the United States. The EPA routinely overrides public safety in favor of corporate profits and the claims of confidentiality. Chemicals are assumed to be okay unless proven otherwise, and to prove them otherwise often takes years of litigation, often after the damage is done. You may be wondering what the chance is that you're exposed to these EDCs, and the chances are 100%. It's everywhere. Plastic is changing and mutilating our bodies and brains. It's changing who we are. It's changing who we can be, and even if we can be. It isn't just sea turtles and whales that are endangered by plastic. It's us as well. When we think about doing something about plastic, we automatically think about recycling. But sadly, plastic recycling isn't what they said it was. Recycling works well for metal, paper, and glass, but not for plastic. The reality is that most plastics collected for recycling are never recycled. And when plastics are recycled, they contain a toxic cocktail of chemicals that makes them unfit for food grade and other consumer uses. In fact, plastics are inherently incompatible with a circular economy. For more information on this, I refer you to an excellent report by Greenpeace called Forever Toxic: The Health Threats from Plastic Recycling. You may wonder why plastic recycling is recycling poison. It's because there are all the toxic chemicals in the original product we've been talking about. Those toxins leach out and combine with other chemicals in the waste stream. And new toxic chemicals are created in the recycling process, especially via heating. There is also the proliferation of greater amounts of micro and nanoplastics into the surrounding environment that poisons the soil, water, air, wildlife, and us. Therefore, sadly, recycled products are often more toxic than the original. So how do we actually tackle the plastic problem? There are some personal actions you can take to reduce your exposure. You can remove food from plastic before storing, heating, cooking, or serving for yourselves and your pets. Never microwave anything in plastic. Heat and plastic don't mix. That allows the toxins and the microplastics to leach out. Avoid black plastic. Black plastic is often made from e-waste, and think of that as ground up computers and iPhones. So it's toxic, and as much as 40% of the black plastic around is so contaminated. Don't purchase beverages in plastic bottles, which are a huge part of the single-use plastic problem. Vacuum often and wash your hands regularly to avoid flame retardants. Replace foam in furniture with latex or wool, or use cotton or wool coverings to mitigate flame retardants on furniture. Look for clothes and natural materials. The microfibers from fleece, polyester, nylon, and other plastic fabrics are a huge part of the microfiber pollution in water. So wash your clothes in cold water. Consider purchasing a water filter. It can't solve all the problems, but it can help a bit. Use ewg.org and toxicfreefuture.org to check the safety of products that you buy. But personal actions alone are not enough to turn off the tap of plastic production. Legislation is the key. We need to start with eliminating single-use plastic, which is 40 to 50% of plastic production. But we can't forget extended-use plastics either. They're still very dangerous. PVC is one of the most toxic plastics, but it's used in our water pipes. It's used in toys, in pet bowls, more. Plastic in baby bottles contains forever chemicals. Microplastics from tires has devastated salmon populations. We need to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies, which help make plastics so cheap. Ban new plastic infrastructure. Demand transparency, research, and improve regulation on chemicals in plastics and on plastics in products. Fund R&D into safe, sustainable, and scalable alternatives. That all sounds like a lot, right? It is a lot. So where do we start? Well, on the climate team, we decided to start with plastic beverage bottles. They're the object of our disaffection and our current target for action. And you may wonder why we chose that. And we chose it because of the specific footprints of a plastic bottle: the physical litter, carbon and fossil fuel, chemical toxins and health impacts, and social injustice. Single-use plastic is around 40% of plastic production, and beverage bottles are around 40% of single-use plastic. So to reduce plastic beverage bottles would be a huge bite out of plastic. There are 1 million plastic bottles sold every minute around the world. Coke alone makes over 200,000 plastic bottles a minute. And they're now saying they will replace cans with more plastic bottles due to Trump's tariffs. Plastic bottles were one of the most common types of plastic litter in North America in 2022. There is a big carbon footprint in plastic bottles. The greenhouse gas emissions in North America of plastic bottles are equal to about 2 million cars a year. They're made from non-renewable oil and natural gas. And natural gas, by the way, is methane, much of which is produced by fracking, which is one of the most destructive processes on Earth. And methane is known to be 80 times more warming than CO2. If we cannot reduce our methane emissions, we cannot cool the planet. Plastic bottles have a huge health footprint. They're the main ways we ingest plastic. 150 chemicals have been shown to escape from plastic bottles and packaging into the contents and then into us, including antimony, which is a cancer toxin, toxic to the liver, heart, and thyroid. It releases 200 million pounds of toxic chemicals into the air, water, and land, including ethylene oxide and 1,4-dioxane. They have a huge social injustice footprint. Most plastic bottle supply chains in the U.S. are concentrated in brown, Black, or poor communities where there is little ability to push back. These communities face serious cancer and other health impacts in far greater numbers than white communities that are located further away from the plants. People already suffering from injustice, for example, the lead pipes in Flint or toxic spills, may be forced to rely on beverages in plastic, which exacerbates the health harms they're already experiencing. But creating change takes a village, and that's all of us. In the climate team, we started a plastic pollution working group in Whatcom County, composed of local community environmental groups. We're at the very early stages of this, but our goals are to educate the community and lawmakers about the effects of plastic on human health, to recognize the limitations and harms of plastic recycling, to reduce the use of plastic beverage bottles in Whatcom County as a step to reduce exposure, and more importantly than all, to work toward influencing plastic policy at the local and state levels, especially regarding glass refill beverage bottles. Legislation requires a firm push from an informed public. As a member of the league, you may already recognize that. So we need to look for opportunities for community education. And I ask you to watch this space. We're going to be developing and supporting legislation to reduce plastic, and we'd love to have your support as we begin to influence lawmakers. We will let you know. An action you can take is to learn more and share it widely. Two sources for that are Environmental Health News and The Guardian. They are both free. And The Guardian, if you're not familiar with it, is a UK newspaper, but it is widely regarded and it has a great environmental and science section. And you see things you will not see in any US newspaper. I've thrown a lot at you this morning, but if you take away just one thing, take away these three words: plastic poisons people. Plastic isn't just trash. It's a symbol of who gets to pollute, who gets to profit, and who gets poisoned. And with that, I am going to stop talking and ask if you've got any questions.
See, I'm not able to see any hands raised. Is there anyone who just wants to speak out? I see Leanne.
Hi, earlier I had a question about what was R&D. It sounds like a common term.
Research and development.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Catherine.
Vicki, have you learned of all the plastic that surround all our foods and beverages? Are any less toxic? Like, are the firmer ones less toxic if they're not black? And so forth. I mean, when you go into the grocery store, it's overwhelming because absolutely everything is already in plastic, or you put it in plastic to take it from the produce department.
Right. So in theory, PET, which is what the water bottles are made of. So the plastics with the 1 and the 2 symbols on the bottom are considered to be not very toxic. And also the symbols on number 5, which would be on the bottom typically of a yogurt container or something like that, those are considered to be less toxic. PVC is the most toxic. But again, what you want to do is get your food away from the plastic as soon as possible. Like take it home and put it in glass or metal or eat it. So that some of it is in cellophane, which is not as bad. So that would be something to look for as well.
Thank you. And I do have one more question. If you've learned, like with regard to Flint, since you mentioned Flint, so they did remove a lot of the lead pipes, but my understanding is they replaced them with PVC. So are we just replacing one toxin with another?
Yep. Yes. Yes, we are. Sherry?
I was very excited to see the farmers out here in the county have always used plastic to wrap the bales. And I counted one day, and those bales are huge, and it takes 24 laps around it, plastic for one bale. It used to make me deathly sick thinking about it. But this year they're using some other material, and I don't know what it is, but it looks to be biodegradable kind of thing. So I want to go, I'm going to go over to the neighbor and see what they're using, but I've noticed even in Eastern Washington, they're using it. So I'm hoping that that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, I'll find out more.
Any other, Kim? You're muted, Kim. You're muted.
Vicki, from your long work in this area, have you learned just where the important influencers are towards getting away from plastics and developing alternatives. I'm just curious who to pay attention to, who to support, that sort of thing.
So the state legislatures and legislators are going to be the place to go to really influence this right now, especially. Liz Lovelet, especially in our state, is an advocate in reducing plastic. Alex Rammel, those people specifically. The problem is the problem is the fossil fuel companies. As you may know or you may not know, plastic is plan B. As the world moves toward renewable energy, the fossil fuel companies want to stay in business by making plastic and putting it in everything, everywhere. Now, they've had studies for decades showing that it would destroy the planet, and they don't care. So those are the negative influencers, but the positive influencers politically are the legislators. There are lots of organizations. Beyond Plastics is one of them. Plastic Pollution Coalition is another one. Greenpeace. Those are the top three that I can think of. Also, Stand.Earth does a lot in terms of helping get greenwashing out of the public arena regarding plastic and fossil fuels. Did that answer your question, Kim?
Yeah, it is. So I'm gathering, I think I know the answer to this question. The CDC and NIH are not important bodies for investigating this issue further and promoting healthier alternatives.
Probably not. Excuse me, not especially now. Given the administration that we have, there is a ton of research, however. So if you're interested in the research, I have research that would keep you reading for about the next 4 or 5 years. But you can start with the Greenpeace report that I have here. And if you're really wanting to get into it, there is the Monaco Minderoo report on plastic, which is very geeky and in depth about the issues around plastic. So I could send that to you if you care to read about it.
Please.
It's got a funny name, but that's because it came out of Australia. You know, kangaroo, Minderoo, they call things like that. So. Julia, I'm sorry, Kim, are you done?
Well, I'll save my next question till someone else has had a turn.
Julia, did you have a question?
Yes, hi. Thanks, Vicky, for all your hard work on this. I know it's your passion and your heart because when I first joined the league, I was part of the climate change and group, but then I also was in the health concerns group, and being a former nurse, well, always a nurse, but I went with that one because there's such big issues, right? So, but I really applaud you and your colleague who, I can't remember her name, she was at the meeting, but your passion is inspiring. I've always been interested in plastic just in my personal life because that's just the way I've lived. But I was really shocked by some of the information when I went to the symposium at Whatcom Community College years ago, and they had some people from Canada come, some professors. I don't know if you were part of that or not, but that was really where I started to learn the impact of nanoplastics and so forth, and shocking. And who was the lady from Seattle? Heather.
Trim.
Yes.
Trim.
And I got to know her and I subscribed to her newsletter. But what I wonder is in all the things we do, like it seems that Whatcom County, I'll get to my questions here. In Whatcom County, we seem to take a couple steps forward and then backward. Like, for example, the plastic bag ban. And then you go into the store and they're offering you plastic bags again. And they say, well, they're recyclable. And so I don't know. So there seems to be, when you make steps forward, loopholes arise and they find their way around it. So that was my first concern. Secondly, when you have places like Ridwell and places like that, and now from your from your talk, it talked about how it's almost worse to recycle plastic. So all the people who subscribe to that and they think they're doing something good, it seems like it doesn't inspire people to, they just are going to buy plastic knowing that Ridwell will take it rather than use glass, or from the very beginning buying a product that is not plastic. And it sounds like from what you're saying, that's even worse because it creates new chemicals. So what are your thoughts on programs that exist like Ridwell, or like I donate my sneakers and all my neighbors and friends to Got Sneakers, my old sneakers, and then they take them and supposedly recycle and do things with them. So what are your thoughts on those programs?
Well, I'm going to give you my feelings. I haven't investigated them in depth. What I know about recycling products is that it can cause more harm than good, and it doesn't reduce the flow of plastic because they plan to increase it by threefold in the next 20 years. So if you give your sneakers to somebody and somebody else wears the sneakers, or if they have a way to do something with them that doesn't cause a lot of harm, I don't know how they do that. I
Yeah.
think the Ridwell thing is probably not valuable. I've just heard inklings of that from the folks that I know from Beyond Plastics. I'm not sure that those are valuable programs, the Ridwell ones, but I don't know. In terms of the plastic bags that continue to be in Whatcom County and elsewhere, that is a legislative problem. It is a legislative loophole, and it's one of the things that we would like to try and address with the legislature. I believe California has already closed that loophole. They did the same thing that we did, and it's because of pressure from the fossil fuel companies and the plastic companies that that kind of thing happens.
And I think, and just one more thing, the current administration, it seems like per usual, all the steps we take are just going to be knocked down because they're pro-business and pro, you know, petroleum, et cetera. So, but I think your presentation, I'm glad to see that you guys are forming an outreach for that education, because I think a lot of people don't know this information. So I'd like to help with that part.
Okay, great. Just email me. I'll take all the help I can get. Tim, did you have more?
Yeah, kind of going back to just where is progress happening? I'm wondering if, do you know if Europe is, or any other part of the world is any further ahead in turning the tide of the plastic tide than the US is?
Yes, everywhere is further ahead. Fundamentally, Europe especially is further ahead. Africa is further ahead. Um, and, it may seem daunting, if not hopeless, given the current administration. But again, I think the hope is in the states and the localities. There are things that we can continue to do. And I will say, I saw a hopeful thing yesterday. I was in Hagen's and I was wandering down the aisle where they have soft drinks, and there were a bunch of them in glass, including Coke. So that is awesome. So if you can buy them that way, please buy them that way if you're going to buy them. And water in the co-op has lots of water that is in glass. So that's great.
And boxes, they sell water in like it kind of looks like a milk a
Container.
container, but it's just a box of water.
I'm not sure that that's not plastic lined, but
Probably, yeah.
it's probably better than the plastic bottle. At least you don't see the boxes littering the ocean and the beach and all that sort of thing. So
It's probably less plastic, I'm gathering.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Anything else? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was having a discussion about this with our children yesterday, and my son is a beer brewer at Colshan, and he said, "Well, if we're eliminating plastic from beverage containers, that means I can't put beer in cans because even the
They're
beer
lying.
have a plastic lining." And I'm just curious if there are alternatives to those linings. Some other, but like paraffin, I thought of paraffin, but paraffin is a petroleum-based product, isn't it?
It may be, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I believe that in the olden days, back when I was young, they used to have the milk bottles and things like that. I think they had wax in them. I'm not sure what kind of wax to keep the product from leaking out. But we could certainly explore that. There are the alternatives to food, basically, it's glass, or cellophane, or some sort of a wrap that is not plastic lined. That's basically what you can look for. And again, right now, I know if you're going to buy anything, some of it's going to be in plastic. And the idea is just to keep it in there as little time as possible and don't heat it in the plastic. There are a number of companies creating alternatives, and you may not have heard of those. One of them is Sway, who's doing seaweed packaging, mostly not for food, but they are doing packaging for things like clothes and other products. And there is a company, I can't remember its name, but it does mushroom packaging.
Yeah. Ecovative.
What's it
Ecovative.
called?
Ecovative.
Thank you, Lorraine. You did
I
the
don't know if they're
research.
still doing it.
Yes, they are.
Good.
They are doing it. They do mushroom packaging that replaces styrofoam, for example. And they're also doing Ecovative is doing things like leather-like shoes and bags. And they also have mushroom bacon, which I'm dying to try, but it's not on the West Coast yet.
Vicky,
So there are.
I had a question about the glass recycling in Whatcom County. Because their supplier, or however it worked, but it was in the Cascadia, I believe, a while ago, where glass recycling is in possible jeopardy. Right now, they're still taking it, but where they used to send it isn't taking it. And so if people are switching to glass and that goes away, then we even have a bigger problem. Are you aware of any of that, or?
I'm aware of it. Mickey is saying the community co-op no longer offers single-use plastic forks and other utensils, even for something. So that's good to know. Yes, I am aware of that. It's something we need to investigate. We're really looking into refillable glass. And so that is something we would like to explore and promote. And so that is a longer term project, but it is being piloted already in Oregon and California. And if you're aware of a group called The Story of Stuff, they are working on that. And they've got some really good things going on. So I'd like to get linked in with them and see how to do that. Interestingly, there are refillable bottles for alcoholic beverages, but for kids' milk, apparently not. So I think we have to push on that. So there are some things happening, and we just have to grab on to the new things that are happening and expand those and reduce the bad. Lorraine, you look like you had a comment.
Well, I do. The PBS last night, I believe, or the night before, said they did a program on recycling and plastic and said we are only doing 4%. I used to think it was 8%, so down 50% from what they used to tell us we got recycled. Right. I'm appalled at not the lack of progress, but the speed of the landfill filling up with what they're telling us to sort and send there. And the landfill problem is producing more methane gas than many organizations. Agriculture is ahead, and of course the fossil fuels are ahead, but the gases from landfills are appalling. Where our health, our air, our everything depends on what we do with our stuff. So I'm looking into the story of stuff. Thank you for suggesting that one. PBS maybe going downhill without support from the government, but they did an excellent program. And we need more excellent programs going out all the time.
We do. Catherine?
Yeah. You know, when I shop for mushrooms, which I love, I note that you can either pick out your own and put them in plastic, or the ones that are packaged are in black plastic almost all the time. Now, sometimes it's dark green, but usually it's black. Just a comment. I don't know
I've seen it.
but
I've
anyway,
seen it.
why did mushrooms get singled out for black plastic? And the other comment I have is that this is sort of a side issue to water that's put into these plastic bottles. But the last I knew, a lot of that water was drawn from the groundwater in poorer communities. So they were siphoning off the water from those communities. And just as it was, I mean, they didn't make it crystal clear or naive or anything like that, Evian, but just piped it right into the bottles. So, you know, these claims of purity and spring water and all that sort of thing are kind of bogus, I think. What do you know about that?
Yeah, there's a whole thing about why bottled water is evil, for the most part, especially in plastic bottles. There's a whole lawsuit in California about Nestle stealing the groundwater, so that people have nothing to drink. They're taking the groundwater that is basically free and then selling it back to you and putting it in a toxic bottle. So that doesn't seem like a good thing. So you're right. Bottled water, we've been sold that we must have bottled water when often it is, um, I'm sorry, I'm looking at a comment. When often it's a scam. Sometimes it's not, but often it is. Yeah, mushrooms are often available in paper bags. You can put them in paper bags. I saw the comment. Thank you.
Mhm.
And use linen and cotton bags. Exactly.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm familiar with most of what you're talking about, but I hadn't heard about the black plastic before. So are you claiming it's better than clear versus green versus black?
Black is, yeah, black is made from e-waste. So
Okay.
like toxic e-waste, 40, as much as 40% of black plastic can be contaminated in that way. So your coffee lids, your sushi trays, your mushroom trays, right? You don't know what's in it is the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. And I did look up the you were talking about cartons, milk cartons. And it said, yes, they're primarily made of paperboard, but they also have layers of polyethylene. So 80% paper, 20% plastic.
I figured just about everything has plastic in it right now. Chewing gum, tea, everything. Julia, did you have another question?
I just had another question because I read an article a while ago. I can't remember who the author was, but it was all about Nestle and the strength of the lobbyists in our government and how because the whole, and I'm preaching to the choir here with you, but you know, they have such strong influence in maintaining that, especially in other countries. And so it's such a huge, overwhelming battle to fight. So again, I applaud you for taking this on. Secondly, the thing I've always struggled with is by refilling containers and things like that is the underserved members of our community and world. You know, they're trying to just make it through the day and they're going to their jobs, they're doing their thing. They don't have time to think about going and using, you know, linen bags or refilling their glass containers. They're going to go for the easy part. So I've always struggled. And when I lived in Alaska, I worked with that population in teaching them ways to actually do this by using paper bags at co-ops, and they can use their food stamps and find cheap ways to do it. But it still takes a tremendous amount of work for me, and I'm retired now, and I have the means to go into the co-op and buy glass things and use my little linen bags and so forth. So that's an area of concern because they are in many respects, the biggest users of plastics and water bottles. So how do you make it easy for that population has always been my quandary. And this is not, I'm not asking you for the answers, but I'm just, have you considered that in the work that you're doing, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I think it is a matter of education. And remember, the world used to be exactly that way for everybody. And so we have been trained over the last 40 or 50 years to use plastic and throw everything away. The world wasn't that way before. And so it is very possible to retrain ourselves and everyone else that it is better for them to use glass or paper or whatever and just make it available, make it normal. I mean, people here in Whatcom County come in with their you know material bags and do things, and it's just normal whether you're rich or poor. You can grab a bag somewhere, and often they're free. People give them away at fairs and all that kind of thing, and that's how you shop. You just stick things in your material bag, your non-plastic bag. And so, yeah, I think it's an effort, but I don't think it by any means is impossible. And keep in mind, in terms of refillables, again, when we were young, that's how the world was. You brought your beverage bottles back and you got your deposit back and they were refilled, cleaned and refilled. They weren't recycled, they were refilled. But thank you for bringing that up. It's important.
Yeah, I bet we all can remember that there was a deposit on every glass, like soda bottle and whatnot. And you would
And
return it and you would get, a couple pennies back. I remember
mhm.
drives, school drives, where we gathered bottles and turned them in. And so,
Oregon still does it. Oregon does it, and it's done it for years.
oh, okay.
There are a number of states that do it, and where they do it, they find that litter outside, scattered about the countryside is reduced enormously, like by 70% or something like that. It still has to go somewhere.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you take the plastic bottles back, you haven't reduced the amount of plastic, but at least they're not sitting in the river or the ocean.
Mm.
Mhm.
Sherry, you're muted, Sherry.
I noticed yesterday when I went to the new Trader Joe's here, they have nice new carts. They're all plastic. And remember, we used to use the metal ones. They're gone now. We just cannot, they not come back at least and get rid of the plastic there?
Interestingly, Trader Joe's promised a couple of years ago to do this big plastic reduction thing, and it was very short-lived and tremendous amount of greenwashing. So, we corporations and governments will be as good as we make them be. It's our job to push, firmly push, consistently push, and even when we're tired, to keep on pushing to make the world a better place. I mean, we just have to say, no, I don't like this. Thank you for, you know, having whatever, those cookies I want, but I really hate your plastic carts. I really hate you wrapping the bananas or whatever it is that they do. So just, you have to push back.
And also say thank you when a retailer or a producer does a better thing,
Yeah,
replaces the plastic carts with metal carts or gets rid of the plastic bags. I think everyone likes a pat on the back for
yeah,
for making a good choice.
yes, good point.
They
Excellent
used to
point.
have these things that I think I got during that plastic symposium years ago, and you could leave them in restaurants or places, and it basically said, I still have some somewhere, and it basically said, thank you for using paper straws, or I noticed that you use whatever it was. So they actually had something like that. And whenever you saw that, you could give it to someone or leave it on the table. And
That's great. I like that.
yeah, so I should find some and start using them again.
Yeah, that would be a great thing. I like that. We'll have to get some printed up. Anything else?
This is a great topic for generating questions and thoughts. Has your group dug into the marketing aspect of influencing or helping to grow public opinion around this issue? Something that will just catch people's imagination and hopefully help them change their thinking and change habits. What we're really talking about here is changing habits, which can be done, but it takes some work.
To answer your first question, I think that's on the TBD list, the to be done list. Yes, I think it's very important to consider the marketing aspect of it. If you have great thoughts there, we're always open to great thoughts, and you're part of the coalition. So we'll look forward to your ideas there. In terms of changing habits, it's not only changing habits, it is letting people know that supervillains really do exist and we really are being poisoned, and we need all of us to say that's enough of that. We ain't gonna take it anymore. So stop it. You know, and I'm not sure how we get to that mass, but I think if we all here go out and tell a couple of people who don't know that plastic is not good for them and some reasons why it's not good for them, that's a beginning, because I think now people think of it as trash, but it's so much more than just trash.
I think you've already done some very effective marketing. Simply the topic of your presentation makes people interested and want to watch it and learn something from it. So you've got a good start. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we will take more wherever we can get it. Any other thoughts or questions or musings, Catherine?
Just a little comment. I was up at the Cordata Park Bash this weekend, and a fellow came over who just gotten his lunch at the co-op, and he said they're not putting out any bamboo or plastic, or I don't think they ever use plastic, but any kind of tableware except for metal. And now they're just saying, just take the metal and either wash it and bring it back, and we'll wash it again, or just keep it.
Good.
That was just kind of interesting.
Good on them. The co-op, is increasingly trying to do a better job. I really like what they're trying to do.
And July is plastic free or plastic reduction month at the co-op. So they really take it to heart.
It's Plastic Free July nationally. That's a thing if you're part of the plastic groups. Anything else?
Vicky,
Thank you.
I put in the chat, but maybe you didn't see it. So you referred to a coalition when you were answering Kim. So what coalition are you referring to? And also, is this presentation available for us to share with other people?
Absolutely. Share it with anybody you want to share it with.
Where
So
can I
it's the
find it?
plastic. I can send it to you. Yeah, I can send it to you. It's also in a slightly different form on the climate team website
Okay,
in the league.
yes.
And this
So
is
you can,
being recorded also. So in a couple of days, this presentation will be up on the league website.
And
but
Mary
if you,
Lynn, is it possible to include a link to this PowerPoint in that in what gets posted on the league website?
I think that, yeah, Vicky, if you'd like me to, I can do that. What will be posted up there will be actually the recording of this, so they can see the presentation. But if you'd like to include a link, I can send that on to Robin and have her include that.
yes, I will send you a link to this presentation and you can just include that. That would be awesome. To answer the rest of your question, Julia, it's called the Plastic Pollution Coalition.
Great. And Vicky, what is the work of your your climate team plastics group going forward?
We're going to focus on the community group, and we would like to focus on creating legislation around getting rid of plastic bottles and hyping glass refill. We'd like to try and bring that back. I'd like to see if we can get integrated into the work of the Story of Stuff, who's working very hard in Oregon and California on those issues. And I'd like to just nudge them further north one state and see if they would help us here do that, and have the coalition do that. I'd like to also share with you that I talked to a league woman in Chicago, and she is doing very much what we're doing. She has created a coalition of 65 different groups and is pushing plastic reduction legislation in the state of Illinois. So that is awesome to know that there are other people in the league doing the same kinds of work. So
And when you say pushing legislation, you're pushing legislation in the state of Washington.
that's what we're going to do in the state of Washington. Federal legislation right now is a no-go in this administration. We can get work done locally and in the states, and that's what we're going to work on. And it's always good to have a working model of something. So if we can pilot some things, if we can get some things working, and then reach out to other people across the state, across the West, perhaps, or, you know, in the more progressive states, I think that that's a very strong place to be. Anything else, guys?
Thank you for all your hard work, Vicki. You're amazing.
Thank you guys for listening to me one more time. I so appreciate it.